And hello, and welcome to Open, the show that's opening the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I am Daren, Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, we'll discuss a newly proposed rule aimed at increasing the salary threshold for overtime pay and its potential impact on millions of U.S. workers. Following that, we'll explore the efforts of a not-for-profit organization dedicated to challenging the current education system with tenacity, passion, and empathy while striving to create a more equitable future. Then, we'll delve into how a children's theater is expanding educational programs across all 5 boroughs and surrounding communities in the tri-state area. And then finally, we'll examine the initiatives that are taken by a local farmers market, connecting urban communities with local farmers. So stay tuned because all this much more is heading your way, because right now, we're officially open. Hello, everyone. I am Daren Jaime, and you are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers to the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on MNN's channels. You can stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Well, some things have been going on throughout the past week, and we're going to take you through it with some Bronx updates. Well, we kick off with developments in transit news. The NYPD unveiled its latest crime-fighting tool, an AI-driven security robot. The egg-shaped machine, partnered with the human NYPD officer, will patrol the Midtown subway station for 2 months as part of a pilot program. New York City Mayor Eric Adams expressed optimism about this innovation, aiming to enhance the city's safety. The robot, known as K5, operates an 18-hour shift, starting at 6 a.m., serving as a mobile surveillance system with a 360 HD camera for post-incident review. Now, police can employ facial recognition on the robot's video footage, identifying potential suspects. Well, in other news, New York City is set to make history by mandating its municipal fleet to produce zero-carbon emissions. The legislation requires the city to purchase only zero-emission light and medium-duty vehicles for various agencies, including the NYPD, the FDNY, and the Sanitation Department by the year 2025. The same standard will apply to heavy-duty and specialty vehicles starting in 2028. The bill aims to phase out all fleet vehicles emitting carbon by the year 2038. The bill's passage comes at a crucial time, offering a blueprint for other cities to combat climate change. The legislation enjoys substantial support here in the city, with 39 co-sponsors in the City Council that virtually ensures its passage. Mayor Adams also supporting it, having already achieved its 2025 goal of transitioning 4,000 city fleet vehicles to electric ahead of schedule. Well, that's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We are taking a quick break, but we do have more open when we return.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug. You know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
That's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
Analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I'm more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
And we are back. In a recent development, the U.S. Department of Labor has proposed a rule increasing the salary threshold for overtime eligibility. Now, if approved, over 3.6 million more U.S. workers could benefit, receiving time and a half pay for beyond 40 hours. The question is, what impact might this have on the future of U.S. workers? Here now to share more is the employment law attorney, Stephen Mitchell-Sack. And Stephen, glad to have you here. And this proposed legislation and rule could really see a substantial increase. And from what I'm understanding, more than 54% increase could take place if this goes into effect.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Absolutely. It's been a long time coming. The last threshold was like 38,000. And so with inflation and everything, big deal. So if you're making, $55,000 a year, and that's your base pay, you would be still entitled up to that amount to get time and a half if you work more than 40 hours a week. I say it's a long time coming, and hopefully it'll pass this time. Last time it didn't. A federal court judge declined to inaugurate that policy. So hopefully this time it'll work.
Well, talk about the significance of this here, because this is pretty major.
It is. And again, we're talking about, and I'm just looking at my sheet here, that you're talking about 3.8 million more workers in the United States would be able to receive time and a half. See, before this, there was a rule that if you made over a certain amount of money, you weren't eligible to get time and a half. But just in keeping up with inflation, millions of people need the extra time and a half, and just because they're making 55,000 or less, they should get it. So it's a very significant ruling if it's enacted and if the judge approves it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people said that when it comes to workers at overtime, it's been an injustice. And from your perspective as an attorney and one who's worked in the field, do you feel as though what we're looking at has been an injustice, has been corrected if this goes through?
Yes, it's a step in the right direction. As a plaintiff's labor and employment lawyer, which I am, and I've been practicing for 44 years, I represent hundreds of people a year that believe they didn't get minimum wage. There's a spread of hours you're entitled to if you're an hourly worker, where you're entitled to get an extra hour for if you do a 10-hour shift in any day, time and a half, of course, minimum wage, all that. The law is pretty tough against employers. Most employers, if they pay you cash, they're liable for not maintaining records under New York law. You can get statutory damages, double damages, and attorney's fees. It's really something that people should consider. Always think about it. If you feel that you're working in a company and you're not getting paid properly, speak to a lawyer, because you may have rights that you're entitled to assert.
Sometimes we hear about employees who are actually fired, and they're fired without receiving compensation. How prevalent is this in the workforce?
It's very prevalent. In fact, I've made a career out of representing fired workers. I have a new book out called Fired, and all I do is represent, terminated workers every year. And I want people to know that if you're fired, every firing is negotiable. Think about it. Like a lot of companies, they'll bring you in and they'll say, here, we got to let you go. There's the door, and they won't offer you severance. They won't give you notice. They won't help you with your COBRA and pay for it. You may be owed a bonus that you were close to getting. They don't want to pay you vacation pay. All of those things are negotiable. And I want our viewers to know that every firing, when you are laid off, don't accept their first offer. Don't bow your head and shuffle your feet out the door. Go back in and negotiate more. In my practice, more than 80% of the time, I'm able to get more money for a fired worker. Now, I'm not saying everybody is entitled to that. Like if you're fired for punching somebody out or drinking on the job, you may not get it. But if you're fired through no fault of your own, you've been at a hospital, let's say for 26 years, you're a nurse, and they lay you off suddenly, and they don't offer you any severance pay, no. You should definitely go back in and on your own or with a lawyer like myself, request some severance pay.
And negotiating is really a serious option here. A lot of people don't know that the negotiation is actually available. I think that when you're laid off, the first opportunity or the first thing that people do is they take the opportunity of walking out the door. But you're saying, listen, don't go out the door, come back through the door and ask some more questions.
These strategies, you're so right, it's tried and true. Okay? And here's another thing. Sometimes they'll bring you in, they'll go, Daren, we want to let you go. Here, sign this letter of resignation. And you think, well, I might look good to the world, but you know what? Then you can't file for and receive unemployment. So you just have to know your rights and know that every firing is negotiable. Let's say you've been there for 20 years and they offer you 4-week severance. Go back in and ask for 20 weeks. Ask for 1 week per year. And in fact, I have a new book out that we talked about. It's there's strategies in there, and I recommend you try to get 1 month for every year of employment. You try to get the company to pay for your medical, COBRA, right? I mean, that's a pretty easy ask if you know what to say. And you always pitch, don't threaten litigation. Basically, what you want to say is appeal to corporate decency and fair play. Say, I've been here for 20 years. I have 2 kids in college. My wife is ill. It's going to take me 6 months to find another job. You can't do this to me. You're putting me on the road to financial ruin. And most companies will be very sympathetic, especially if you were a long-term, fair-minded worker who made them money or saved them money. Why shouldn't they give you a better deal?
Well, Steve, I'll ask this question here. We want you to show us the book because I know you got it next to you somewhere nearby. And
Sure.
For those people who may not know what's actually in the book, you talk about being fired and having rights, and that's something many people don't know about. So give us a little bit about what we can find inside this book.
Thank you. Well, in Fired, I take people through all of the incidents that happen when you're fired. For example, the first half of the book gives you information. Let's say you're a person of color, or you're pregnant, or you're over 60, and you think that you may have been discriminated against by being fired. Well, in Fired, you'll know how to prove a discrimination case and what to do. Now, if you don't have a discrimination case, but you still have been terminated through no fault of your own, the next part of the book talks about how to negotiate a better deal, how to go back in and ask the boss for more money, right? What to ask for. Again, try to get as much severance as you can. Try to get notice pay. Try to get the company to pay for your medical benefits. It's all in here. Outplacement assistance. How about a favorable letter of reference? I have a sample letter in the book which describes what you need. Like, to whom may concern, Daren worked here from blank to blank. He performed his services competently, and we wish him well in his endeavors. A small, short letter of reference is better than a longer one. Also, it's very important to know, is there restrictive covenants? Did the company say that they're firing you and that you can't compete against them or work for a competitor for a while? You don't want that. And in the book, there's sample general releases and separation agreements. Most people, when they're given separation money, severance money, they're asked to sign a release. I have clauses in there to make you be aware of. For example, they may not want you to talk negative about someone. We'll make it mutual. Make a sentence in there that if a prospective employer contacts the company, they'll only confirm your dates of employment, positions held. That way you know that they may not give you a negative reference. It's all of these things and hundreds of more points and tips that, again, that are in Fired, and that people should, and they can get this book at Barnes and Noble or out on Amazon, or they can call me. And then another thing people should know, if they ever have a question, call me up. There's no charge. Can I give out my number?
Yeah, we're going to do that. I'm going to give you the website. I'm going to give people the website and give them your number in just a second.
If anybody has a question and they've been fired, they can call me. I'm not charging them. I'll be happy. If I'm looking for cases where people are fired after like 20 years, not if you've been fired in 6 months, but if you've been fired through no fault of your own and you've been there a long time and you're not given a reasonable severance package, definitely consider working with me. I don't charge any fees up front. I work on a contingency fee, so if I don't get you any more money, it costs you nothing. Clients love that arrangement because it's fair. And all I want to do is seek justice and help people. Being fired is the worst time of your life, basically. You got bills to pay, you have a mortgage to pay, right? You have to take care of your family. Why not try to go back in and get a better deal? We're not necessarily threatening litigation. We're just appealing to corporate decency and fair play to get the company to give you some additional compensation to carry you through a very, very stressful period.
Stephen Mitchell-Sack, we're going to leave it there, employment law attorney, and thank you so much for sharing with us, talking about the Department of Labor and overtime as well as firing, and glad to have you with us. All righty, well, if you want more information, visit the website at theemployeeslawyer.com, and then call them at 917-371-8000. Again, 917-371-8000. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
And we are back. City Year is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to helping students graduate from high school in neighborhoods where 1 out of every 2 students are dropping out at risk. Well, the organization employs core members who are committing a year of their lives to serve full-time in public schools, providing essential services and serving as role models to create a more engaging learning environment within schools. Here now, we've got the Executive Director and Senior Vice President of City Year New York, Quamid Francis, and he's sharing with us. And Quamid, good to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Daren. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us. And as we talk about this, I mean, there's a lot of challenges that we have within the educational system, but it seems as though you're finding a significant way in bridging the gap and making things happen in the lives of some of these young people.
Absolutely. I'll start by saying, just talking a little bit about City Year. So City Year is a It's an education-based nonprofit. I always like to say that we're powered by national service. We have a long-standing relationship with AmeriCorps, and that's how we do our work, right? We partner here in New York City with about 17 community schools across the four boroughs, excluding Staten Island. Hopefully we'll get there one day. But we're highly concentrated in systemically under-resourced schools and communities. So, most of our schools are in East Harlem, East New York, and in the Bronx. Most of our schools being in the Bronx. So really happy to be here with you. And really, the number one priority in terms of the value that we provide to schools is capacity and bringing our whole school, whole child model, which is, we train and develop AmeriCorps members to become student success coaches. And what we do is we place teams of those coaches in our partner schools to help those schools thrive socially, emotionally, and academically in terms of how we work with our students. There's a growing body of research on student preferences and how students learn and develop that shows that integrating holistic supports like services and practices that addresses both the social, emotional, and the academic development of students, that combination, that holistic support provides the best path for students to graduate from high school and ensure their success in college, in career, and in life. So that's the number one priority of our AmeriCorps members who we develop as student success coaches. Yeah. Develop those relationship with those students to help them thrive socially, emotionally, and academically.
Quamid, take a moment for me and unpack a little bit, because as you have your AmeriCorps members going in there, they're serving for a year, and that's great. That's really an opportunity to engage with these young people and to connect. We know that a lot of the challenges that go on inside the educational environment. What are some of the things that your staff, or I should say, the AmeriCorps team, are finding once they reach into these educational institutions?
Yeah, well, I would say a major challenge for us is chronic absenteeism, right? And that's what our model is designed to support in part, right? A big part of it is, there are simple things that we may not, that the ordinary person may consider simple, such as, having clean clothes, right? Having good food to eat, going home and being able to have the resources and tools to effectively do your homework, right? I can't tell you how many schools that we visit where, a big part of the issue is that kids don't have clean clothes, right? So what our community school model does is we literally procured washer and dryers and install them within our schools, right? And that has had a positive impact on addressing chronic absenteeism. And that's just one example. Another big piece is parental engagement. When parents aren't engaged, there's that affects, a child's learning and development in terms of, at-home support with schools, and then coming to school in general. And so a big focus of ours is how do we engage our parents? How do we get them to buy into what we're doing? The more engaged parents are, the more likely students are to come to school. And then it supports their academic and social emotional well-being as well.
Yeah. I want you to take a moment for me and talk about the whole school, whole child model, because this is something that really is connecting and making a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think what differentiates City Year from a lot of other education-based nonprofits is we literally focus on the entire whole school, whole support, right? So it really starts with our AmeriCorps members, right? Adding capacity to the classrooms, right? If you have a class with, say, 25, even 30 students or more, and there are a number of students who need targeted support, that teacher may not be able to reach all of those students. And so that added capacity of those student success coaches who we develop, over the summer before they go into schools, they're able to provide that targeted support, whether it's on ELA, whether it's on math, or other areas of just social emotional development that those teachers may not have the capacity or time to meaningfully address. And so that's what we provide. We also provide, as part of community schools, a community school director, right? These are individuals that we pay for on our staff with some funding from the Department of Education to provide added administration capacity to those schools, right? So you're thinking about things like writing grants to bring in extra resources. Maybe the library is short on books. We provide support from our corporate sponsors to provide that types of resources. Events, field trips for our kids to make sure they have the full experience that all kids deserve. And so it's really focused on the whole entire ecosystem. I talk about parental engagement. One of our schools, for example, have a computer literacy training where our parents are able to come there and get that types of skills, right? And so it's really focusing on what are the derivatives of a student's success, right? And then focusing on all those different factors. And so that's really what Whole School, Whole Child is, from the administration all the way down to the student.
We hear a lot about parental engagement, and that seems to be a big challenge because to get that parent to be engaged, whether it's coming to the school or sometimes even just answering the phone, can sometimes be quite a challenge. What are you seeing by way of parental engagement with an AmeriCorps volunteer in that classroom? Has it made an impact in terms of getting that parent on board to say, listen, you know what? I need to be a little bit more connected, because I think parents are invested. They're just overloaded sometimes.
100%. On that latter point, 100%. I mean, our parents, especially in the communities we serve, you're working 2 and 3 jobs, right? And they want to be in their kids' lives, right? And I think this additional support of our core members, it helps them to navigate some of those capacity gaps that they may be experiencing in their own personal lives, in their own homes. And so I think what our core members do is, I mentioned, those trust and relationships, right? The beauty of the AmeriCorps members serving alongside our teachers is, it's kind of a near peer model, right? Our core members are 18 to 25-year-olds. So they're old enough to be able to provide that academic supports and tutoring and social emotional skills to our students, but they're young enough where those students will be able to confide in our student success coaches, and in some areas that they wouldn't even broach with their teachers. And so that's where the magic happens, right? And so when the kids are going home or being picked up from school or dropped off in the morning, and they're smiling to see their student success coach, the parents see that, right? And they see, wow, like I see, my child is having a really good school experience with this extra level of targeted support, right? Especially during after school. And so I think the parents begin to see that magic happens and they want to get more involved, right? So when we put on events for our schools, whether it's on the weekends or after school, the parents are there, right? Because they know the value of a City Year core member in their school and the impact that it has on their child.
We talk about student outcomes. I mean, we're seeing some great success through the work of City Year. As you look at student outcomes, what are some of the ways that you're judging how effective the interpersonal relationship is working out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to be careful in terms of what we talk about with student data. We have an agreement with our school partners and want to tread lightly there. But I will say, in terms of, our internal, how we assess the efficacy of our model and our work, we survey our students and our teachers, right, and in the school ecosystem. And I will tell you that, just last year, we had 87% satisfaction rate from our students and our teachers and administration, right? And how they assess that is based on our SEL support, social emotional learning, as well as our academic tutoring support, both in school and after school. So that 87% satisfaction rate is really incredible. And that's consistent year over year. In terms of third-party evaluation, we know, we do third-party evaluation through the Johns Hopkins University Every Student Succeeds Center. And what the research shows is that schools with City Year in it tend to do better on the social emotional front as well as the academic front relative to schools who don't have City Year in it, right? And so that talks about academics, social emotional support, and the whole school ecosystem, all the different resources that we provide to a school that the school may not otherwise have to pay for wholly on their own. So it's really that third-party evaluation that we do with our Johns Hopkins University that assesses that validates the efficacy of our work, as well as the administration and teacher satisfaction surveys that we get back. So,
yeah. Are you finding more significant challenges since we are just coming out of the COVID shutdown? And when I say just coming out of it, I mean, I know we're still dealing with COVID, but yet and still that shutdown itself, a lot of students having to be home, learning, access to technology. These are all things that they carry into the classroom now. And as they're carrying into the classroom now, some teachers are having to deal with a lot of the, collateral damage that came from this.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's incredible learning loss, that continues, post-pandemic, and we're still living in that reality. And, and again, I talk about all the different mental stresses that a student may bring with them into the classroom. And I think I always say, you can't begin to engage meaningfully and effectively a student on the academic support if you're not building that relationship, if you're not addressing the mental stresses that they bring with them to the classroom, that it may impede their learning development. And so we're proud to, as another resource that we provide to our schools, many of our schools, we subcontract with mental health, professionals, right, and social workers to help us fill in some of the gaps that we may not be technically skilled at, right? And so we go above and beyond to meet our schools where they are to provide them those resources because, the incredible learning loss from the pandemic, it's a real thing and we're addressing it head on.
Yeah. Quamid Francis, thank you so much for joining us. He's the executive director as well as senior vice president of City Year New York, sharing with us about the impact the organization has in the life of students. And great talking with you, brother, and thank you for the great work that you're doing.
Can I say one thing if I got a couple seconds?
You got a couple of seconds, but yeah, you can get that in real quick, yeah.
Please visit our website, cityyear.org/New York. Learn more about how you can sign up to be a student success coach and get involved with our work. Thanks, Daren.
Well, you know what, man? Now you just took the line from me that I was just getting ready to say, so I really just don't have to say it, but I guess I'll say it anyway. No, for more information, do visit his website, cityyear.org/New York. And then also, what he didn't tell you is you can follow them on Instagram at City Year New York. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back right after this.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Or how did I get here?
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
And we are back. New York City's Children's Theater is a not-for-profit organization that's dedicated to enhancing children's literacy and social development through sustainable, accessible, professional theater productions and arts and education programs. Now, the nationally recognized initiatives benefit children and adults alike throughout the 5 boroughs and the tri-state area. And joining me now to share more is the education coordinator of New York City's Children's Theater, Frank Ruiz, and we thank him so much for joining us. We've got this fly around here, and I don't know what we're going to do, but I got Frank over here. Good to have you.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for sharing with us. And we're talking about kids just in the last segment, and really your impact with young people still in a different kind of way.
Absolutely, yeah. So we partner with schools in all 5 boroughs, especially the Bronx, and we bring our residency programs there. We have an anti-bullying program as well, but the main premise of our overarching education program is the adaptation of a book into a short play or musical. So we'll send our teaching artists, they'll take the book and the source material, and they'll work with the kids to inspire songs and a play. And that, what we found is that really does support their language learning as well as their literacy overall.
Yeah, and when we talk about literacy, obviously, a lot of challenges across the city in terms of literacy, but you're finding a unique way in order to bring literacy into the lives of young people.
Absolutely, yeah. So Because we're focused so much on that experiential portion, you know, the understanding of the text and really what the core themes are, you know, we find that the kids really lead the conversation when we're creating art with them. So it deepens that understanding, and on top of that, you know, it deepens that emotional well-being, because a lot of these books, they talk about experiences that these kids are familiar with. Some of them, you know, it may be their first time seeing themselves represented in a book. And so getting to tell that story in their own way has been a really, really special thing to witness and support.
It's an exciting time for you all as well, because you guys are in the middle of a tour.
Yes, we are in the middle of our 5-borough tour of New York City with our production Corre Abuelita Run. I'm the assistant director, and this story is about a young girl cheering on her abuelita as she runs the NYC Marathon. So we were at the Brooklyn Children's Museum on September 30th, the Bronx Botanical Garden on October 7th, and we will be at the Staten Island Children's Museum on October 15th, the Metropolitan Museum of Art on October 21st, and the Queens Museum on October 22nd.
And these are original productions, right?
Yes, most of our productions, I would say all of our productions, are original pieces that have been developed. Many are developed with a book as the core source material. This one in particular was actually inspired by our director and playwright, Sammy Lopez. His grandmother used to run the LA Marathon every year, and he has such great memories of cheering her on as a little kid. So he really turned it into this beautiful intergenerational story that celebrates culture and language and community.
Yeah. For yourself, obviously, it's got to be a great feeling to see the connectivity with young people and literacy, and then also in theater, because we don't see as much theater as we used to see. So to be able to take this and to be able to really advance that into the lives of people, what's it like for yourself and others who are working behind the scenes here?
You know, it's a really special feeling. I myself was working as an actor and director pre-pandemic for the most part, and then that shift into education was something really meaningful to me, because I got to see how working with students directly, working with young people and bringing these performances to them, how fulfilling it can be and how life-changing it is an experience. You know, coming out of the pandemic, we're still seeing the results as it affects theaters nationwide. But I think, you know, our focus on being centered in community and supporting children's literacy has been a really, really, it's had a positive effect as far as we've seen.
Yeah, and also the work with diversity and inclusion, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of our main focuses. You know, our one of our programs focuses on multilingual learners. So we're looking at the way that songwriting can really support their development, not only in English learning, but also support that home language, and making sure that that is something that continues to be reinforced in their education.
We talked a little bit in the last segment about social emotional learning, and this is also a great way that really incorporates that social emotional learning.
Yes, and something that I'd love to talk about for a second, one of our programs works in transitional housing facilities throughout the city. And from that, we actually developed something called the Trauma-Informed Toolkit for Educators. Working with arts therapists and our own teaching artists, we sort of developed this online learning module that's meant to support educators, you know, who are working with young people, generally, you know, 3K through 5th grade. And the idea is looking at how trauma-informed education practice can support all students in a positive way. And I think coming out of the pandemic, that's something that we're seeing a lot of interest in from arts educators as well as classroom teachers, just to see, you know, how this whole situation has affected students' well-being. So being able to create a classroom environment that really acknowledges that is something that I'm really, really proud that we do.
Yeah, you're doing some great things. And we talk about this, it's a great impact on the community as well. Talk about the community impact. I mean,
absolutely,
the community turns around and says, hey, you know, to have this in their backyard and to come to various places across the city, I'll let you share.
Sure. So that is something we're really, really proud of with our current touring show, but as well as our ability to really reach out to schools in all 5 boroughs and finding opportunities to engage with community. You know, something that I think we do that particularly in education, whenever we're bringing teaching artists on, we try to, hire them so that they are working directly in the community that they live in. They have that investment almost, and they have that additional understanding that what they're doing is impacting their neighbors, their loved ones. So as our, upcoming shows are, this is our only touring production this year. We have a production called My First Nutcracker for the holidays, and then in the spring we have an adaptation of Pinocchio as well, which both will be at Theater Row near 42nd Street. But we continue to make sure that we are always working in and with the communities throughout New York.
Yeah, and for yourself, obviously, a lot of time and effort goes into these productions, right?
Yeah.
Take us backstage, if you will. Give us a little bit as to the rehearsals and what it's like and really getting geared up, because it's a lot of work that goes into this.
It is, yeah. We had a pretty quick rehearsal process, but our team of actors was really, really wonderful. And like I said, Sammy Lopez, our lead director, he really knows how to create an inviting and accepting room where we can just play and explore the story. And I think because there's so much cultural understanding with this piece in particular, we really got to dive into, what was the meaning of this? Like, what does this mean to explore, topics that you don't always get to see them. In this case, it's a very Mexican-oriented story, with our director's background. And so a lot of the actors on our team were Latinx, Latina actors who really felt like they could bring their own home experience and home life into the story.
And so it's touring around. Let's go tell the people again. Got a chance to see it.
Yeah.
We missed it here in the Bronx if you've missed it already, but there's still other places you can go.
Yeah, so upcoming, we have Staten Island Children's Museum on October 15th, and we have the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan on October 21st, and the Queens Museum on October 22nd.
And as an organization, you've done some great partnerships as well, because to put this on and continuously, there's some partnerships. So you want to highlight some of your partners before we go?
Absolutely. We work very closely with the Department of Education, their arts office, that in particular with our multilingual learner program, and several partners throughout the city. But if you want more information, I would take a look at nycchildrenstheater.org.
All righty. Well, we want to thank you so much for being with us. And Frank Ruiz is our guest here, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Pleasure for being here.
It's all right. Listen, again, if you want more information, visit the website, nycchildrenstheater.org. And, of course, you can follow them on Instagram and Facebook at NYC Children's Theater. We encourage you, please don't go anywhere. We've got more open coming up right after this.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Kids!
I don't want to talk about it.
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 Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency.
Kids, you all right?
This family's prepared. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan. Go to nyc.gov/readyny or call 311 for more information.
My character, Shazam, knows all about growing up in a family full of teenage superheroes. They're bold.
Where's everyone going?
To fight crime?
Okay. Adventurous. Shazam! There's never a dull moment. And no matter what happens, they'll always have your back. All they need is a place to grow and be themselves. And the best part is, you don't have to be a superhero to adopt a teen. Learn more about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward.
And we want to thank you for staying with us. The Bronx Park East Farmers Market sources farm fresh food from the local tri-state area farms to serve the Bronx and Central Harlem. Their mission, focusing on nutritional equity as well as tailoring community outreach strategy. And we've got joining us now and providing further insight, the Executive Director and Farmers Market Manager of the Uptown and Boogie Health Project. We've got Judi Desiree, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
A great organization doing some great work. And when we talk about, community, and you're taking community and also healthy. So let's walk through the organization a little bit.
We first started as Uptown Boogie Bicycle Advocacy, where we spoke about providing awareness of Upper Manhattan and Bronx cyclists. It was going through the program and providing information about nutrition while biking is when we started noticing the unaccessible access to farm fresh food. When leading rides from the Bronx, we noticed that there wasn't a lot of weekend markets, and the markets were very far apart from each other. So we just wanted to make aware about the commute that it takes to get to farm fresh food in especially the Bronx on weekends.
Yeah. And when you looked at it, I mean, to see the Bronx being a food desert, right?
Yes.
And as big as we are,
Yes.
as huge as we are, to find a food desert, you guys said I got to do something about it.
Yes, because we find that food just passes through the Bronx. It's not stopping in the Bronx. So it's making its way to, various other neighborhoods that do need the produce, but why not the Bronx? Like, why can't we also have a space where farmers can come and provide the community with farm fresh food?
Yeah. So you have the Bronx Park East Farmers Market. And so for people who come to Bronx Park East, what can they experience?
Well, I want to first start that we were a farm stand and a community-supported agriculture in the park.
Okay.
We were inside Bronx Park, and it was the community that told us that they needed more. In 2021, it was a response of 2020's the pandemic, and bringing that produce and hearing the community wanting more. In 2022, we expanded the Bronx Farmers Market. We've now still continued to be in front of Bronx Park, but we now support 4 farmers that are local in New York State. And they provide vegetables, herbs that can be utilized in various cultural dishes. We have a fruit farmer, microgreens, mushrooms, also baked goods and vegan options. I provide farm fresh eggs and honey, and I try to uplift all the small businesses that may have distribution issues coming into New York, and I am that source to bring that to the market.
So how was it when the community really saw what you were doing? How long did it take for the community to really rally around? Was it immediate? Was it like...
It was immediate.
Yeah.
It was immediate. When we arrived in, we had a welcome and awareness and survey about what the community may want in March of 2021. And we said we were coming in with working with one farmer to bring produce. Many people came by, looked and said, this is nice, can we have more? And I didn't really know what more looked like. And many people came by, and it's just like having nutritional benefit programs be accepted, being able to not only pick up produce, but to pick individual produce. And it was from there, and working with Community Board 10 and the BPACA Association, we came together and finding out what best. And the Parks Department was really for it as they were working on various community projects in the park. So it just all came together.
Access to local farmers. I want to
Yes.
talk to me about that, because as we look around and you're able to get a hold of farmers to be a part of this, I've heard people say before, the access to local farmers and getting local farmers to connect, it's a hard task.
It's a hard task.
But you're able to bring it home.
Yes. As we know, many farmers are losing their spaces, especially when it comes closer to New York. That accessibility has become either more expensive, housing issues, distribution issues, which pushes them further up into the state. Having them to come and do 3-hour transportation, going through tolls, getting into the city at a certain time and exiting was very challenging. And we worked with Cooperative Spaces in Chester, New York, which is pretty much in Orange County, the hub of agriculture that's close to New York City. I physically took the Metro North, got on a bike, and visited the farmers and see what their production was like, what questions they may have. You know, maybe some didn't feel they had enough produce to bring to the market. And it was like, something is better than nothing. And just speaking with them, spending time on the farm, getting to know them. Also, I'm a Farm School New York City alumni, and knowing how to speak the language and just getting to relate of their needs and what they want, it was then made it easier to convince them to come to the Bronx.
And talk about speaking their language. I mean, how difficult of a sell was it to say, hey, I need you to come on down to the Bronx and help us out here?
It wasn't difficult to sell. It was just letting them know that I had the space. I had parking. It's very important that the farmer is able to bring their vehicle and park it somewhere. That's why we worked with the Parks Department, and we are around the parking lot in front of Bronx Park. The same in Harlem, we worked with the DOT to reserve parking for the farmer. So that was one of their major concerns. Another concern was staffing. In the summer, we provided youth to support them during the market. Like, you know, if they wanted to go to the bathroom or get lunch, there was somebody there so they didn't feel alone in setting up or breaking down, that there was still support in the market. And I'm a techie. I have a computer science degree, and so technology I'm not afraid of. I let them know how I can help them set up their Square or their, you know, merchant accounts, supporting them in participating in the Farmers Nutritional Benefit Program. Getting that kind of connection with that agency made it easier for their application to process through. So knowing that they are fully supported and I'm there to champion them, it was just the easiest sell.
Yeah. And so for you, what's the experience been like being able to say, listen, I got on Metro North, took this bike, I rode out there, I got the connection. Now I have farmers, but then I also have community, and the two are actually married together, and we're seeing this great outcome.
Oh, many people say, oh, is this your passion project? I said, not only is my passion, it's my mission. And it's been such a wonderful experience to greet people. The farmers market is really focused on it being the community. We survey the community and asking what they want to see at the market. And we adjust that. We go looking for that. And we allow the community to build the farmers market. When we come in, I know people by name. I know the kids. It's just wonderful that people know me, and when they see me in the street, that's my farmers market manager. And we want to make sure that when we talk about farmers market, it belongs to the community. That's why Bronx Park East is called Bronx Park East Farmers Market, because that's their market. So.
And you spoke of Harlem too. Talk about Harlem.
Harlem was also around the same time. Started as a farm stand. I'm a community garden leader of St. Nicholas Miracle Garden. I co-lead that space, and we started with a farm stand to activate the garden in 2021. With the farm stand, it accompanied also a community-supported agriculture. We work with farmers that brought, bringing eggs and herbs and fruits and vegetables in front of the farm stand. That is from June to October. And with that farm stand, we also had the community who came in like a New Yorker, give me more. Just saying that we have a gap just 10 streets down. how can we get you there?
Right.
And within 2-year process and working with, again, the Parks Department, we were able to gain space at the historical park of St. Nicholas Park. And we are there on 137th Street. And we wanted to make sure we picked in all our locations that it was a transportation hub. You can get there using micromobility, you can use bus, you can use train, you can park your car, you can use anything to get to us. And being there in Harlem and getting well received in front of the park, this was our first year in 2023. We are from June to November. And we also wanted to address that weekend need. And both markets are on weekends. So Harlem is on Saturday and Bronx is on Sunday.
So for people who want to go to Harlem, where do they go?
You can go on Thursday evenings. I love my evening crowd to get that farm to table feel. At 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., we're located between 126 and 127th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. On Saturdays, come in the morning from 9 to 3. You can even drop off your clothing.
Really?
Yes, we have a clothing drop off, and to address the sustainability needs. In the farm stand, I'm a master composter, so I can take your waste. So we want people to bring back their food scraps at the farm stand. And we process that at William B. Washington Garden. The market, we address like textile recycling. And you can come, it's there at the same time as the market from 9 to 3. We're located on 137th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue, the entrance of the BC line and the M3 bus. You can get there that way. And it has 2 main farmers. We also have baked goods. We do cooking demo. All our farmers markets support children. With us being in a park, we work with parents that have kids between the age of 4 to 13 where they receive money to shop at the market. So they get $2 to spend on fruits and vegetables. They have activities where they have to interview the farmer. They have to find vegetables. They get books to read. We work with the Bronx is Reading to distribute books at both locations. And so we want to make sure that parents know that they can use their nutritional benefit programs such as FMNP, which is the WIC, that when they do bring their kids, that there's a space for the kids for them to be engaged in the market too.
Well, Judi, you're doing great work.
Yes,
certainly.
thank you.
They got the Bronx, got Harlem.
Yes.
You know, I grew up in Harlem too, 127th
Yes.
Street right there, right next to you. So, yeah, so continue the great work.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you. Judi, that's right here with us. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All righty. Well, listen, if you want more information, visit them again, the website at www.bronxmarket.com. And then also, we want to let you know that we come to the end of our show today. Got to thank all of our guests for joining us. Most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch Recablecast on Optimum Channel 67, Verizon Files Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. And as always, you can catch a brand new episode of Open with my girl, Rena Valentine, coming on Friday. This wraps up this episode for us. I am Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.